Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Coastal Permit Administrator meeting for the coastal area on April 30th, 2020. It's 10:07 a.m. and I'll start the meeting. This is a virtual meeting and it's effective as of March 27th, 2020. And the Mendocino County Coastal Permit Administrator meetings will be conducted virtually in the foreseeable future and not available for in-person public participation pursuant to State Executive Order N2920. Meetings will be live streamed and available for viewing on the Mendocino County YouTube page. That's www.youtube.com Mendocino County Live. I also want to let people know that we will continue in this way. So first, I've called the meeting to order 10:07. Do we have determination of noticing?
Notice on all cases.
Thank you for that, Jim. And I'll go ahead and jump to the regular agenda. One thing I just want to bring up, I'm going to slightly modify the agenda. 3D will now become 3A, and we'll go with that one first. Then 3A will be 3B, 3B will be 3C, and 3C will be 3D. So with that, let's go to the first item on our agenda. And one of the things I want to bring out, I will open up this first case, 3A. I'll hand it off to our staff planner on that, Vandy. Vandy will take us through what the project is, what the permit's about, and then I will ask the applicant if they have anything they want to add. Then after that, to get public comment, we're going to have a 3-minute pause. We'll pause and we will, I want anybody who has comments that they want to send in on this item to send them to pbscommissions@pbs.com. That's pbscommissions@pbs.com. So with that, that's enough of me. I want to hand this first item off. It's Coastal Development Permit 2019-0004. The applicant is Greg and Noah Casserly. The agent is Schlosser Newberger Architects. It's a standard coastal development permit for to allow alterations to existing single-family residence, including demolition of a roof and walls, adding new decks, walkways, a 640 square foot garage, a 640 square foot guest cottage, and then there's additional repaving and reconfiguration of the driveway, replacing a water system and leach fields and adding new parking spaces. The environmental determination was a mitigated negative declaration, and it is located at 16224 North Highway 1 in Casper. So, Vandewater, if you could walk us through this coastal development permit.
Thank you. Just to do a quick correction for the request, this is a standard CDP. However, we have reduced the request to just be the remodeling of the existing residence as well as repaving the driveway. So the garage and the guest cottage are no longer part of the project. The project is located in both the rural residential general plan designation and zoning district. It's also located in the coastal zone directly on a blacktop parcel, and it's roughly 4.5 miles south of Fort Bragg on the west side of Highway 1. The parcel is located within the Doug Handle State Reserve. It actually has a conservation easement that places the parcel into the state reserve. There's an existing septic system, leach field, and well already on the parcel, and the access driveway is also existing. The residence was constructed in 1972, so that was prior to the building permit for the department as well as the coastal commission. Moving forward, there were several agency comments that I will return to. I would like to quickly go through the local coastal program consistency section for items that were found to be consistent. This includes land use and zoning, with our overall residential, and the proposed development would be consistent with those. Regarding archaeological and cultural resources, the project had a survey that went to the Arts Commission, and a condition was adopted that an archaeologist shall be present for any ground disturbing activities. With regard to grading and erosion, the project will have minimal grading, and therefore this issue is not considered to be significant. Regarding groundwater resources, as noted, the property already has an on-site septic system and leach fields as well as supply water and manage wastewater. For transportation, there were no issues with Caltrans, and as noted, the park will gain access off State Highway 1. Regarding public access, the LCP land use map identifies the coastal trail going around the subject property, so there are no preemptive rights that provide coastal access on the subject parcel. Going back to public comment, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the California Coastal Commission, and the California Department of Parks and Recreation all had comments on the project. Mainly due to the parcels being part of the Dark Handle State Reserve. The Department of Parks and Recreation just wanted to ensure that the development would not be expansive. Therefore, the proposed development, that's why we only have the residence in the driveway and not the garage and cottage, guest cottage. That was to satisfy Parks and Rec as well as Fish and Wildlife and Coastal Commission. A major concern for some of these agencies was the visual resources, due to being in a state park or reserve. However, there is the conservation easement, which establishes that the only development permitted currently is the residence in its current location. Any alterations have to be permitted through state parks. Comments from state parks requested that the development remain in its existing footprint. With regard to hazards, the Coastal Commission did bring up the issue that the residence is relatively close to the bluff, and requested that conditions be included to ensure that development will not be threatened by bluff retreat. We determined that the bluff retreat is roughly 1 inch per year, and that the proposed development does meet the 75-year timeline to ensure that the project doesn't get threatened by coastal bluff retreat. Lastly, the habitats and natural resources, because this parcel is within a state reserve, the parcel is inherently, the entire parcel is inherently in ESHA. Therefore, it was not possible to make the findings that the parcel would not have impact on ESHA, so everything is an ESHA on this parcel. However, we did include conditions to reduce the impact, such as following prescriptive conditions from the coastal zoning ordinance, as well as limiting development and staging areas to the existing paved driveways, so that no materials are going to be impacting access. And lastly, due to the parcel, the proposed project will not be able to adhere to all requirements of the LCP. However, a safety analysis was performed, and more than about $2.3 million have been invested into the property and the project and taxes. So the county staff finds that if the project were to be denied or reduced in scope, that this could potentially be a regulatory taking. Therefore, we have recommended conditions that will bring the project as close to LCP consistency as possible. And before I finish off, I did write a memo that adds an additional condition. This is at the request of the Coastal Commission, who provided comment yesterday regarding lot hazards. So per the memo dated today, condition 19 will be included, which really just puts the responsibility of includes a deed restriction that, the property owner, if the resident is gonna fall into the beach or surrounding area due to bluff or creek, then it will be responsible of the landowner to clean that up or remove the structure prior to that happening. So moving on to findings, the first finding is per my memo, is also amended just to acknowledge that the LCP, finding regarding etches was not able to be found. However, all the other findings pursuant to section 20.532.095 A have been found, as well as the supplemental findings found in 20.532.100 A1 regarding etches when that finding can be met. And with that, staff recommends approval with, let me just quickly briefly mention that a mitigated measures declaration was prepared for the project, and the only impacts are considered to be on the ESHA environment. However, with mitigation incorporated, the impact is brought down to less than significant. And with that, staff recommends approval of the project with conditions.
Thank you very much, Vandy. I'll now turn to the applicant. If you could state your name.
Wait, hold on.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Vandy. Now I'd like to turn it over to the applicant or the agent for the applicant. And if you could state your name for the record, and if you want to add anything else to your application for the coastal development permit for this property.
And please just be sure to unmute your microphone, Mr. Schlosser. Do you want to unmute it for him if we can?
Hello, Mr. Schlosser, can you hear us?
Now we can hear you too.
Now we can hear you too, we believe. It looks like you're in Washington, D.C. there.
I'm calling from the Oval Office.
That's what it looks like. So you have powerful friends, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you heard me, Mr. Schlosser. I appreciate Vandy's presentation there, and I just want to turn it over to you to see, is there anything else you want to add to his presentation about the Coastal Development Permit 2019-0004? And if you could state your name for the record.
My name is Robert Schlosser. I am the agent for Greg and Nola Casserly. I would say that the only thing I would like to correct on the record is I think the description in the staff report says that we're going to keep the floor and remove the roof and the walls. But floor structure has been damaged because the windows that are on the west face of the building, they're wood windows and they weren't really constructed or maintained properly. Water's gotten in there, it's rotted the window frames. And unfortunately also rotted the wall framing underneath the windows. Then it rotted the floor structure underneath the walls under the windows. So one thing I would like to say is that we plan on replacing the floor as well as the roof. So this is new construction. We're not trying to do a 50%, less than 50%. I just want to clarify that because that's different than our previous staff. Other than that, we accept the staff report. We accept the new condition that the State Coastal Commission recommended, and we're happy to go ahead with the staff report as well.
Oh, yeah, great. Does that conclude your presentation, Mr. Schlosser?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and I just wanted to confirm, you do accept all the conditions and the April 30th memo from the staff with the additional condition added. I think it's 19, correct? You agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. All right, that'll conclude our applicant's presentation. Now I'm going to open it up for public comments. and what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take a 3-minute pause starting right now. And then what I'd like to do is if anybody out in the public there who's watching wants to make a comment, you can send those to pbscommissions@pbs.com and Jim will read it off.
Sorry, pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. And send it in there. Jim will read it off if we get it for the record, and then we'll close public comment, and then I'll ask some questions and make a final determination. So we'll take a little pause here. All right, Brent Schultz again, Planning and Building Services Director here for the County of Mendocino. Jim, did we receive any public comments on CDP 20190004?
None received.
No, we had no public comments on that, on this item, so given that, I'll close public comment. And, I just wanna add on this one, that the request, here has a slight modification on, there's some replacement of some subflooring tube by the walls that were, damaged with water intrusion, as stated by the applicant. That's been added, and that's de minimis. That's a part of this application. I also want to note that the applicant has agreed to, with all the conditions, including the memo written by Vandy Vanderwater on April 30th, 2020, adding additional conditions, and those are all approved. I support the planning staff's recommendation of approval with conditions, and I approve coastal development permit 2019-0004, and we, Mr. Schlosser, we wish you the best of luck with the project, and I hope it goes quickly for your clients. And we hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next item. It's item 3, case 3B. And this is a coastal development permit 2003-0079. And it is, the agent, applicant is Donald Falk. The agent is Wind Coastal Planning. I believe, is Blair there with Wind Coastal Planning? And this is standard coastal.
Don't look it up. They're so connected.
This is a standard coastal development permit to construct a single-family residence with attached garage. Associated development consists of construction of a septic system, connection to Pacific Reefs Community Water District, water system, construction of a water storage tank, construction of a driveway, and connection to utilities. The applicant also requests the probable future repair replacement of a septic tank, installation of new pump tank, trenching of septic line from said tank, and associated infrastructure to secondary replacement septic field. The environmental determination was mitigated negative declaration. The project is located at 34275 Pacific Reefs Road in District 5. And I'll hand it over to Julia Acker-Grog to do the presentation on this report. And so we'll open it up with the staff planner to give a brief description on the project, then open it up to the agent or applicant, and then we will do public comment. We'll do a 3-minute pause. Public comment to see if there's any of that, and then we will move on. And I'll make a final determination. So with that, go ahead, Julia.
Thank you very much. So this project, as you can see by the permit date, this is a very old project that's gone through several different iterations. So this permit was originally submitted back in 2003 and had gone through a series of iterations. It first started with a variance accompanying it as well for a front yard setback reduction, but since that time the project's been revised to no longer require the need for that variance. This project, as I just said, it was submitted on September 12th, 2003. So it's been about 17 years in the making, and I'm very happy to see it coming to a public hearing at this point. So on July 7th, 2015, planning staff that was newly assigned to the project reached out to the applicant about withdrawing the application because it had been incomplete for a period of time or on hold for an extended period. The applicant did contact staff, and we were able to keep the application in process, and a revised proposal was submitted on June 30th, 2017. There's been numerous studies prepared for the project, a biological scoping survey and botanical survey and wetland delineation, a report of compliance, and then 4 separate geologic reports and accompanying memorandums that updated those throughout time. So this property is located about a half-mile south of the town of Albion, and it's within the Pacific Reef subdivision west of State Route 1, and that's a gated community, and this is a bluff-top parcel which has residential development surrounding it on the north, south, and east, and this is a relatively flat parcel. The bluffs there are about 100 to 150 feet above sea level, and the whole lot is gently sloping towards that bluff edge at about a 0 to 5% slope. This parcel is in the Pacific Reefs Water District, as well as it's designated as a high fire hazard area. It's not in a designated highly scenic area or a special community. And it also has many extensive sensitive habitats on the property, as well as geologic challenges in terms of setbacks from both the bluff and then also from any sort of landslide hazards. With regards to land use and zoning, it's both designated and zoned as rural residential with a 5-acre minimum parcel size and also an alternate density of a 1-acre minimum parcel size. This parcel is really existing at the higher density, lower minimum parcel size requirement of the zoning district, and that was done at the time of the subdivision, so no additional water studies or anything are triggered as a result of this application. The project is for a single-family home, which is consistent with the principally permitted uses and the stated intent of the rural residential district, as well as the general plan classification. This site also is designated with a couple combining districts. So it has a development limitations combining district, which is really meant to identify parcels that may have limitations towards development, and this being a bluff top parcel with some degree of landslide potential occurring as well. This lot did have the development limitations combining district on it. Additionally, there are also some, it requires that you be consistent with the floodplain combining district as well when you're in a development limitations district. And this site, all of the development is located as far from the bluff edge as really reasonably feasible in order to provide the maximum setback. The proposed development complies with all the development standards for the RR district, including yard setbacks, height, and lot coverage percentages. As I mentioned before, for habitats and natural resources, this site has extensive sensitive resources on the site. So there's an area of wax myrtle scrub, which also supports a population of a rare swamp harebell and also what's considered a coastal act wetland. There's also an area of sluice sedge under the Monterey pine stand, which is also considered a coastal act wetland. There's a special status specific reedgrass meadow, which is also an Army Corps wetland. And then there is an area of coastal bluff scrub, which has been in the past observed to support special status species like the Mendocino Coast paintbrush. And then lastly, there is a wetland seep on the bluff face. So as you can tell by that description, there's a lot of sensitive habitat that constrains this lot. As such, it is impossible for there to be a 50-foot buffer from all the identified sensitive habitat. And as a result, staff worked with the applicant to have a takings analysis prepared and review alternative proposals to the development, and that is what the report of compliance also covered that was submitted with the project. Staff, we went through the full takings analysis. The proposed residence is in size and scale with the residences on adjacent properties. And as such, staff does find that if we were to deny this project, it would constitute a regulatory takings. And as such, we are able to then approve development that would be otherwise inconsistent with our zoning code. There's mitigation measures recommended, and those are recommended as conditions 9 through 16 within the staff report here. Additionally, as I mentioned before, this is not in a designated highly scenic area. However, I do want to note that it is not visible from State Route 1, so there should not be significant concerns about viewshed impacts. The proposed exterior finishes are included as attachments in the report, and staff finds them appropriate for the area and consistent with Mendocino County Code. Exterior lighting is required to be downcast and shielded and cannot exceed the parcel boundaries, and any exterior lighting that's been proposed does appear to be consistent with those standards. As I mentioned before, the area is in a high fire hazard area. There was a CAL FIRE preliminary clearance provided with the application, as well as the project was referred to the Albion Little River Fire Protection District, and condition 4 is recommended to address any of those standards. With hazards, since this is a bluff top parcel, I mentioned the 4 various geologic reports that were prepared. There is estimated that the bluff setback should be about 80 feet for future improvements, and this would guarantee a 75-year structural life, including a safety factor of 1.5. There's recommendations in those reports for site grading, foundation support, seismic design criteria, concrete slab on grade, retaining walls, and site drainage. And staff has reviewed the site plan. The project does comply with the bluff setback criteria. However, we have also included condition 18 to ensure that the future design, the engineering is consistent with the geologic reports that have been prepared for this project. In terms of grading, erosion, and runoff, there's minimal grading that's required for this project, about 20 cubic yards. Best management practices will be utilized, as well as the conditions that protect the adjacent sensitive habitats. So those are conditions 9 through 16 and condition 19 of the project. For archaeological resources, an archaeological survey was prepared and it was accepted by the Archaeological Commission on March 14, 2018, with just the recommendation for the discovery clause, which is included as condition 8. The project was also referred to the 3 local tribes. However, only one response was received and did not have substantive comments about the project. This site is located in a critical water resource area, but as I mentioned previously, water is to be provided by Pacific Reefs Water District, and there is a condition that requires that at the time of building permit, a letter be provided from the district demonstrating their capacity to serve it. The entire subdivision was created, though, with the understanding that these would be served by the water district in that area. For transportation and circulation, the access is already provided to the site via Pacific Reefs Road, the private road, and County Department of Transportation had no comments on the project, as it takes access off a private road, and then the subdivision itself accesses off of State Route 1 and has an already improved encroachment that would meet Caltrans standards. 2 parking spaces are shown and provided, and that's consistent with county code requirements for any sort of residential development. And for public access, while this site is west of the first public road, there's no indication that public access is required to be provided as part of this project. Either there's no evidence of prescriptive rights, nor is it mapped as a potential public access point. So I already mentioned about the takings analysis, and then it was already noted that the environmental determination is a mitigated negative declaration, and those mitigation measures are included. Now, I do want to note there is a memorandum prepared for this project. It's dated April 29, 2020, and it is in response to comments that were received from the California Coastal Commission on April 24th. And so there's several revisions to the conditions and 1 new condition. So staff recommends amending conditions 9A and 15B to essentially state that any landscaping on the property shall consist of native and regionally appropriate plants. And that's true for both 9A and 15B. And then condition 20 is a new condition, and this would require that a deed restriction be recorded against the property that would impose all the conditions of the permit as covenants, conditions, and restrictions on the use and enjoyment of the property, and that this could be combined with the other required deed restriction, that's condition 17. And staff has spoken with the agent on both of these changes, and they are in agreement with those changes, at least in our conversations previously. And that should satisfy many of the concerns that were presented by the Coastal Commission. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I am recommending approval subject to the amended conditions.
Thank you very much. All right, well, we'll now open it up to the applicant or agent, and
It'll be Blair.
Is that going to be Blair? So we're going to turn on the mic for you, and Blair, if you would like to add anything else to the presentation of staff on this item, on Coastal Development Permit 2003-0079.
Sure. Good morning, everybody, and thank you. I really appreciate this finally coming to hearing, and staff's, I really appreciate the staff report. It was concise and to the point, and considered a lot of constraints and complexities of this parcel. We agree with all the conditions. There is one addendum that I would like to have considered due to the fact that the clients would like the ability to start and commence work this year, and considering the length of time it takes to process deed restrictions, I am hoping that we can change the language or add to the language that prior to final inspection or issuance of certificate of occupancy on any building permits in reliance of this coastal development permit, that the applicant or landowner shall execute and record a deed restriction. So it just allows for the applicant to commence work, but before you get the certificate of occupancy, that the deed restriction is absolutely recorded, and it allows, for a faster commencement of the work. Is Is that
Uh,
agreeable to?
And I'll say to the coastal permit administrator, staff has no concerns with that. That actually is consistent with a recommendation we're providing on another report within the agenda today. So that revision would be acceptable to
That's
staff.
acceptable, okay. And then if you could state your name your full name for the record and who you're with, Blair?
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Blair Foster with Wind Coastal Planning, agent for the applicant.
great. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does. I really appreciate all your work, and thank you, Julia.
Of course. So,
I'm finally coming to the end line.
so I just want to be clear then. So that would be modifying the language at the beginning of condition 17 and condition 20.
Correct.
Just so
And
we're
that
clear
both
with the
of
rest.
those- And just really clear that both of those deed restrictions are combined as one deed restriction. We're not talking about two deed restrictions.
Exactly.
I think we clarified in 20 yesterday.
Okay. With that conclusion of the agent's presentation, I'm going to go to a 3-minute pause for public comment. Again, if you want to, I'm going to start that now. If you want to make comments on this coastal development permit, you send them into pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. Did I get that right?
Got it right.
pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. Send those in, and then we'll read them off. So 3-minute pause, everybody. Okay, it's Brent Schultz, Planning and Building Services Director. We're back live at the Coastal Permit Administrator meeting. Jim, did we get any public comments?
We have received no comments on this case.
No comments. Thank you very much. With that, I'll close public comment, and I will go back to the item. I would like to say I concur with staff's recommendation on this coastal development permit and the finding of mitigated negative declaration. And I'm gonna approve this coastal development permit 2003-0079 with the amended conditions from the April 29th memo to the applicant, and that's for this file in this case, and with the modified conditions 17 and 20 as was specified in this meeting today. So with that, I approve it and wish everybody the best of luck on this project. Get it done quickly. Use contractors locally if you can, and vendors, hopefully. And we look forward to seeing the project get done. So with that, we're gonna move on to the next case. Thank you very much, Blair.
Excellent.
Okay. Just let me know, are we ready? Are we ready for the next one?
I think they might all still be staying on there. So I think we're ready for the next one.
All right. I'll go ahead and start the next item. This is item 3C. It was 3B, it's now 3C. We changed it up a bit here. This is Coastal Development Permit 2016-0046. And the owner is Tom Paradise and Fiona Davidson. The agent is Andy Harney. And it's a standard coastal development permit to construct a single-family residence and detached accessory structures containing a garage, workshop, greenhouse, and guest cottage. Other improvements will include or associated a decking around the single-family residence and accessory structure, solar system on the accessory structure, hot tub and extra decking of the single-family residence, and permeable driveway. Associated utilities include construction of a septic system, propane tank, well and pump house, and the application includes proposal of major vegetation removal on the parcel as well. The environmental determination was a mitigated negative declaration by staff, and the location is 15251 Seadrift Avenue, and it's in District 4. And I'd like to hand it over to Julia Acker to do this presentation on the project. What we'll do is Julia will take us through what the project is and all her findings and her conditions and what she's recommending. Then I'm gonna hand it over to the applicants to see if they want to add anything. Then we're gonna open it up for public comment. We're gonna do, because we don't have public meetings anymore, we're in this virtual world, we're gonna take a 3-minute pause for the public to make any comments so I can hear those. Then I'll make a final determination. Again, I'm Brent Schultz. I'm the Coastal Permit Administrator for County of Mendocino. I'm glad you're all here. So I'll hand it over to you, Julia.
Thank you, Brent. So this project, as you described, is really for the establishment of a single-family residence and accessory improvements on this lot in the Casper community. This is one of the last parcels in this subdivision to be developed. There is residential development on just about every single surrounding lot, and this is one of the very last ones to be developed. This was lot number 12 out of the Casper Point subdivision, which was created on January 12, 1966. So this is an older parcel. This site is about 5 miles south of Fort Bragg in the community of Casper, and it's about a half mile west of the village of Casper. So it's at the corner of Pacifica Drive and Seadrift Avenue and is surrounded by single-family homes. It's designated as a highly scenic area west of Highway 1 and also classified as a high fire hazard area. There's no other hazards such as flooding, tsunami, or fault hazards that are associated with the project site. And the habitat on the parcel primarily consists of native tree cover of shore pine, wax myrtle, and tan oak, with a shrub understory consisting of huckleberry and non-native introduced species, and herbaceous layer of ferns, grasses, sedges, and non-native species. The site also contains a seasonal wetland swale that retains water and has wetland plants within it, and is highly constrained due to the environmentally sensitive habitat area. So this is also another project where we do have a takings analysis as well, because this site is so heavily constrained by sensitive habitat that a 50-foot buffer cannot be maintained from any of the identified habitat. With regards to land use and zoning, the property is both classified and zoned as rural residential with a 5-acre minimum parcel size or alternate density of a 2-acre minimum parcel size. This parcel also exists at the higher density, smaller minimum parcel size of that variable classification, and that was done at the time of subdivision, where adequate water would have been demonstrated at that time of subdivision to support this higher density in the area. The rural residential district allows single-family homes as a principally permitted use type, and this project is consistent with the permitted uses as well as the development standards and with the intent of the district. And it meets lot coverage, all of the setback requirements, and the height criteria, both for a highly scenic area and for the zoning district. As I mentioned before, with habitats and natural resources, there's been extensive studies on this site. They were done by a biological consultant and consisted of a Coastal Act compliance report and then follow-up letters that supplemented that report. So as I mentioned, it really is both shore pine forest and wetland swale is what are the primary constraints for the site in terms of sensitive habitat. And while the development can meet a 50-foot setback from the wetland swale, it cannot meet a 50-foot setback from the shore pine forest because the shore pine forest covers nearly the entire parcel, if not the entire parcel. So Mendocino County Code requires that a sufficient buffer be established, and staff worked extensively with CDFW, that's the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, in order to determine what buffers were appropriate and where was the least environmentally damaging location for the development. And the current proposal in front of you has been determined to be the least environmentally damaging. There are mitigation measures included. These are included as condition 14 in the project. And staff did have the applicant and worked with the applicant to have a takings analysis prepared. And in review of that, it does appear that the proposed residence is in size and scale with development on adjacent properties. And if we were to deny this application, it, in staff's opinion, could constitute a regulatory takings. And therefore, staff is recommending approving it despite the inconsistency with county code. So with visual resources, as I mentioned, it is a highly scenic area west of Highway 1. And the residence has a sort of range of heights, but overall the average height is not greater than 18 feet above natural grade. And additionally, the proposed garage, workshop, and guest cottage structure is proposed to be at approximately 25 feet in height at the tallest side, but the average height does not result in anything greater than 18 feet in height. So staff finds it to be appropriate, and with the tree cover that exists on the parcel, there is minimal concern about visual impacts in this area. The application proposes the light gray siding with a dark gray trim and a dark green metal roof, and staff finds that that color palette is really appropriate for the area. It will blend nicely with the community there. For exterior lighting, as I said previously, it is meant to be downcast and shielded and not exceed the parcel boundaries. The lighting that is proposed is consistent with those standards. For hazards management, this site is in a high fire hazard area. It was referred to both CAL FIRE and the Fort Bragg Fire Protection District. CAL FIRE did provide their preliminary clearance for the project, which this project is consistent with. And then Fort Bragg Fire did not respond to the referral. However, standard condition 4 will capture any requirements they may have. For grading, erosion, and runoff, there will be approximately 35 cubic yards of grading, and best management practices are recommended, as well as the conditions that are protecting the environmentally sensitive habitat area, so that's condition 14 of the project. For archaeological and cultural resources, the project was reviewed by the Mendocino County Archaeological Commission on July 18, 2018, where it was determined that no survey would be required at this time. They did recommend a condition of approval that when the applicant starts clearing away the dust and such on the parcel, so that's, this layer of, dead leaves and things that have dropped down off the trees, that then they would conduct a survey to determine if there are any sensitive resources in that area and return to the Art Commission if there is any positive results to have recommendations set for that. That was really done by the Archaeological Commission in an effort because they understood the constraints of being able to do an archaeological survey now with this very thick, it's like I think a foot deep of duff on the property right now. The project was also referred to 3 local tribes, and there was only 1 response, but they did not have substantive comments either for the project. So standard condition 8 advises the applicant of the discovery clause in case they encounter archaeological resources, and condition 9 is the condition requiring compliance with the recommendations from the Archaeological Commission. For groundwater resources, this site is mapped in a critical water resource area, and potable water would be provided by the proposed on-site well. And then additionally, the septic system would also be constructed, and there's a septic design already on file that has been shown to meet the environmental health standards, and authorization for the installation of that is included in this application. As I mentioned before, adequate water would have been demonstrated at the time that parcels were created. And so staff does find that the water is adequate for this site, and the applicant will still be provided to demonstrate that they can support a single family based upon the drilled upon well. For transportation and circulation, access to the site would be provided from Pacifica Drive. And the County Department of Transportation commented that the project requires construction of a standard driveway approach, and any work in the county road right-of-way would require an encroachment permit, so those are included as conditions 10 and 11. Additionally, this project was referred to the county addresser because of the area where the access was going to be taken from. And after receiving comments back from the county addresser, it's determined that a change of address to Pacifica Drive is going to be necessary for this application. So as originally read, it says Seadrift Drive, and that's going to switch to Pacifica Drive once this residence starts construction. For public access, this site is not designated as a potential public access point, though it is west of the first public road, and staff during our site visit did not observe any evidence of prescriptive rights. It's also not a bluff top parcel, so there's less concern about that potential being there. For the takings analysis, as I mentioned, staff did find after reviewing all the documentation that if we were to deny this application based upon inconsistency with the sensitive habitat buffer criteria, that it would constitute a regulatory takings, and therefore staff is recommending approval of the project despite that inconsistency, subject to the mitigated negative declaration. And finally, staff prepared a memorandum for this project dated April 29th, 2020 in response to California Coastal Commission comments that were submitted on April 22nd. And with that, staff is recommending modification of condition 13, in addition of 2 new conditions, condition 16 and condition 17, and staff has shared this memorandum with the applicant as well. So condition 13 would be revised to essentially reflect that the deed restriction could be recorded rather than prior to issuance of the coastal development permit, prior to the issuance of any building or septic permit in reliance of this. So that way the CDP can be issued itself, but the building and septic permit would not move forward until that was recorded. So that would be a modification to condition 13. And then condition 16 would be added to require that landscaping on the parcel shall not include invasive plants and shall only consist of native, regionally appropriate plants that are compatible with adjacent plant communities. And then condition 17 would be added, which would state that in addition to the deed restriction noted in condition 13, that either adding to that deed restriction or as an additional one, all the conditions of this permit would be imposed as covenants, conditions, and restrictions on the use and future enjoyment of the property. And that's really to advise if there is a future owner of potential restrictions that may be applicable to the site. And that concludes my presentation, and staff's recommending approval subject to the amended conditions.
Thank you very much, Julia. All right, now I'm going to hand it over to the agent or applicants. Who's going to speak? I guess Tom Paradise and Deanna Davidson. Will you be doing the speaking?
Yes.
Great. Well, I'll hand it over to you. If you could state your name for the record, and then if you want to add anything to Julia's presentation about your coastal development permit.
Nothing. I'm Thomas R. Paradise. I'm one of the owners, and I'm married to
Jonah Davidson. Thanks.
Well, it's nice to meet you in this virtual world.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And there's,
we're delighted with Julia's work. So we can't find anything at fault. We're comfortable with all of the restrictions and recommendations at all.
We're just happy to get this
moving forward. Yeah, I grew up out there and I have a lot of family out there, so we're just kind of tired of Arkansas.
wonderful. Well, not wonderful. I don't want to say anything bad about Arkansas, but we're glad you're looking at building here. So and it's quite a process. I appreciate everything you're saying. All your presentation there. Is there nothing else you want to add?
No, we're happy with that this is moving
Great.
forward, and we've loved working with Julia. She's been fabulous.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, with that, I'm gonna close the comments by the applicant, and I'm gonna open it up for public comments. And I'm gonna hit my little 3-minute timer here. So anybody that wants to make public comments on this, this is your chance, and you need to send those in right now to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org, pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org, and then Jim will call the clock after 3 minutes, and then he will read off any public comments if they come in. And we're going to take a 3-minute pause, so everybody just hold for 3 minutes, and we'll come back, and then we'll conclude this item, and I'll make a decision on it. All right, thank you, everybody. We're back. The 3 minutes is up. Jim, did we have any public comments?
There is no public comment submitted on this.
And staff would just like to note, there was one comment letter submitted in advance of the project that was actually a letter of support for the project, looking forward to seeing this lot be developed.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I'll close public comment. And I want to say I really appreciate everybody's work on these. I know they're a lot of work to go through a process to build a single-family residence on our coast, especially when there's so much sensitive habitat, and we have a very protection-oriented ordinance, and as well as the Coastal Commission Acts, and it can be very difficult. I appreciate all the hard work on everybody on this. Very thorough, Julia, great report, and I appreciate everything. I just want to, before I make a final determination, I just want to make sure that the applicant does concur with all the conditions in the report and the April 29, 2020 memo on the project to the applicants, which modified condition 13 and added conditions 16 and 17.
Yes.
You concur with that? Great.
Yes.
All right, given that and the recommendation of staff, I'll approve coastal development permit 20160046 and wish you all the best of luck with your project.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Julia.
When we show up, we'll work on a lot more maps together.
Sounds good.
All right.
We should probably explain that, right, that I'm a professional cartographer and
Oh,
geologist, so thank God, I think we made Julia crazy because she would ask us to do something and the map would show up the next morning at 8.
It was great. It all kept moving.
Right?
Thank you, everyone.
yeah. All the best to you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
So, and we do have Keith now up, so we can go ahead and admit him and Asa.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Let's move along to the next item. Again, I'm Brent Schultz, Planning and Building Services Director. We're on at the Coastal Permit Administrator meeting, April 30th. And next item up is item 3D. It was 3C. It's our last coastal development permit for the day. And it's Coastal Development Permit 2018-0018. And its owner is Kenneth Roswitha Schaefer, and I hope I said that right. Sorry if I messed that up. And the applicant is, our agent is applicant Wind Coastal Planning, and it's a standard coastal development permit to construct a 5,164 square foot single-family residence, 3,293 square foot porch deck, and attached 612 square foot garage, and attached 2,034 square foot private art gallery. Also to construct 1,000 square foot family care unit and 1,299 square foot porch deck, and an 822 square foot chicken coop run, and a 44 square foot personal observatory, a 40,040 square foot of ground mounted detached solar panels, and 244 square foot pump houses. Also has some replacement fencing is proposed along the frontage of State Highway 1. Additionally, temporary occupancy of a travel trailer during construction is requested. Environmental determination is mitigated negative declaration, and it is located at, the property is located at 3980, is that right, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
3980 North Highway 1, and this is in Supervisor District 5. And so what we're going to do next, I'm going to hand it off to the staff planner to do a brief presentation of his summary findings and also his recommendation. That'll be Keith Grunendijk will do that, and then we're going to hand it off to the applicant to see if they want to add anything else, and then we're going to open it up for public comment, and then I will make a final determination, ask some questions, and final determination. So with that, Keith, if you're there, if you could walk us through your staff report, your recommendations, and any condition changes that you have. Thanks. So go ahead, Keith.
Keith, do we have you on the phone?
I don't see him there.
No, he's up there. I just don't see the audio not
Maybe
there.
the audio back up.
Would you mind, could we take a couple minute pause
Yeah,
here?
just take a pause here real quick. are we back? All right, Brent, this is Brent Schultz again, Planning and Building Services Director. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, but we now have Keith with us in the room. And Keith, I'm not sure if you heard I did a summary of the application. I'd like you to take us through your staff report. Again, just a summary of the areas. And then if you could end up with what's your recommendation to the coastal permit administrator, and then I think Julia wants to talk about some conditions on the project. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, and you can take us through your staff report. What's your recommendation on the project?
Thank you, Brent. The total parcel size of this project is 35.5 acres. The general plan designation is remote residential with a 20-acre minimum. The zoning is consistent with that. It's also RMR, 20-acre minimum. There are two combining districts on the property, floodplain combining district and the visitor accommodations and services combining district. It's located in Supervisory District 5, Ted Williams. It is an appealable parcel to our project to the California Coastal Commission, and surrounding land use and zoning designations are consistent with the subject property, and the uses around the area consist of vacant parcels, single-family dwelling, and one transient occupancy use, the Albion Inn, I think it is, to the south. The project was found to be consistent with the local coastal program, the remote residential zoning district, as well as all other provisions of Division 2 of Title 20 of the Mendocino County Code. And the project development would not diminish public access to Mendocino County coastal areas and conforms to the goals and policies of the coastal element of the general plan. The coastal permit administrator, or actually, I would recommend that the project be found to be consistent with the environmental determination was that all possible significant environmental impacts identified for the project can be adequately mitigated through the conditions of approval or features of the project designation design, so that no significant adverse environmental impacts will result from this project, and therefore a mitigated negative declaration is adopted, and staff would recommend approval of this project. There was a late communication from the California Coastal Commission that listed 6 comments and concerns associated with this project. Julia Acker-Krog, Chief Planner, was going to address those comments, those concerns. That concludes my presentation.
All right. Just a second, we'll have Julia make her additions to the staff presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Julia Acker-Krog, Chief Planner. So as Keith stated, we received a rather late comment from the Coastal Commission yesterday at 4:50. And in the limited time that we had to review and respond to those comments, we have prepared this memorandum dated April 30th, 2020, which supersedes the memorandum that was prepared dated April 28th, 2020. Staff would like to offer the following response to the Coastal Commission comments. So these will go in the order that they were presented in the public comment letter that is posted on the web. Number 1, the sensitive habitat grassland issue has been resolved with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. The sensitive habitat area buffers were agreed upon with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Point number 3, the staff report and the past prescriptive rights analysis, which included the subject parcel, concluded that public access would not be required at this time. County staff does not agree with the Commission that additional analysis is required. Additionally, the Commission failed to understand that the project request is for replacement of an existing fence rather than a new fence. The existing fence has been along this property boundary for decades. Point number 4, a visual analysis was completed and reviewed by county staff for the project. The structure is not visible from State Route 1 and no additional analysis is necessary. With regards to point number 5 from the Commission's letters, county staff has added a recommended condition number 34 to address concerns with the family care unit and potential future accessory dwelling unit. For number 6, county staff has amended condition 8 and added a condition number 33 to address the concerns about geologic hazards and future owners' knowledge of restrictions on the property. And staff has shared these revisions with the agent for the project, and the agent did at least seem to be in support of them, but I will let them speak for themselves as well when we get there. And then lastly, I did want to clarify as is detailed in the memo, I'll just run through these changes real quickly. So we had recommended modification to finding number 2. And this change is just to note that the driveway off Highway 1 is proposed, not existing, just to clarify that in the finding. And then for conditions, as I alluded to, condition 8 would be amended to reflect that the deed restriction required would be recorded prior to the final inspection or issuance of a certificate of occupancy on the structure. And then additionally, point E of that condition has been expanded to include all the proposed development on the site as part of this coastal development permit, not just the primary residence. Condition 18 is clarified to describe that the requirement for demonstrating proof of water is applicable for the building permits for each residence, such that you don't have to demonstrate full capacity when you get one of the residence building permits. Condition 21 is just clarified to describe that it is a private residential driveway approach. Condition 26, this is a correction where we had a carryover from what looks like it might have been another project that just noted about silt fencing being installed within 100 feet of a drainage course, which is not applicable to this property. So staff recommends striking the third sentence of condition 26. And then staff does recommend adding condition 33, which would require that the applicant record a deed restriction. And I would just like to, I'm going to make an edit to my own memo. I would like to make condition 8 consistent with the condition 33 consistent with the language in condition 8, which would instead read that prior to issuance or prior to the final inspection or issuance of a certificate of occupancy on any building permit in reliance of this coastal development permit, that they record and execute a deed restriction imposing all the conditions as codes, covenants, and restrictions against the property. For condition 34, this is just to clarify in response to Coastal Commission comments that the family care unit shall not be converted to an accessory dwelling unit unless and until Mendocino County adopts regulations to allow such activity in the future. Depending on what regulations are established for accessory dwelling units, a coastal development permit may be required. So with that noted change that I verbally read into condition 33, staff recommends approval of the project subject to these amended findings and conditions in the memorandum dated today and the changes made at the meeting just now.
Thank you, Julia, appreciate that. So next up, I'm gonna turn it over to the agent or applicant on this one. I think it's Amy Nguyen. Can you turn on her microphone? Hi, Amy.
Hi, Fred.
You have a beautiful background there.
Thanks, that's Little River Blowhole area.
I think you win the background awards today. I gotta have an award. Some M&M candies. But how you doing?
I'm well, and you?
Great. Hey, well, I want to hand it off to you now. Do you want to add anything about this coastal development permit in addition to what Julia had and Keith had laid out about the project?
Thank you. Amy Nguyen, agent for the applicant from Nguyen Coastal Planning and Biology. First, I'd like to say that I'm grateful to county staff, Keith Brandike and Julia Acker-Krog, for their dedicated and thorough review of this project. And I know it's been complicated, and also thank you to the agencies for their consideration and support of this project. And to our architect, Bob Schlosser, the team in our office, feel like I'm in an awards ceremony. But especially, I want to say that I'm grateful to Ken and Roswitha Schaefer for their patience throughout this process. So thank you, everyone. We are very supportive of the staff report as written with the proposed modifications in the, what's today, April 30th memo that Chief Planner Acker read off this morning with the modification that she caught. I'm sorry that I didn't catch that, but to have condition 33 match the pattern, the timing pattern for condition 8. And our architect noted that on condition 18, it would be helpful to have the same kind of language modified. So I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the pattern of construction, but the intent this summer is to pull building permits for both residences on the property. So the timing of the wells, which is what condition 18 is about, would be most helpful to have that timing for that well requirement match the timing of condition 8. So to modify condition 18 to find a little tweak prior to, if you could strike issuance and instead insert final inspection or issuance of a certificate of occupancy of building permits for each residence. And then the permit holder shall submit proof to the Mendocino County Environmental Health Division that any new well is capable of delivering a minimum of 0.5 gallons per minute of potable water. So that's our only request at this point. Where you can see we've got our senior biologist and architect in the wings. If anyone has any questions, with that, I'll turn it back to you guys again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nguyen. And now what we're going to do is there no other information you want to provide, Amy? That's it?
Correct. No.
Okay.
Correct.
With that, then I'm going to go to public comment. After public comment runs for 3 minutes, I'm hitting my timer. Then I'll ask some questions and we'll make a final decision on it. And then I just want to tell everybody to go to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. If anybody has public comments, send them in to Jim, and Jim will read them off. But we've had nobody yet. So let's see what happens. So 3-minute pause for the public. All right, we're back. Jim, do we have any public comments?
No public
No
comments.
public comments. Did we have any write-in letters or anything like that?
No comments were received,
No written correspondence received. All right. With that, I'll close public comment, and it'll come back to the coastal permit administrator, now me. And what I'd like to, I want to ask a question of Bob, Robert. I don't know, is it okay to call you Bob or Robert or? Can we hear him? Wait a minute.
Yes.
Robert, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Now you're on some island or someplace. You were with the president, and now you changed it up on me. No, I just had one question on.
I'm trying to compete.
I know you're never going to beat Amy today. Sorry, she already won. But she has the best background. Asa, you got to work on it, okay? And no, I have a. You know, I don't want this to come out. I don't want this to come out like I don't like solar panels, because I do like solar. I've done a whole bunch of it. But that's 40,000 square feet of it, so it's like an acre of it almost. Is it pretty well hid? I know you can't hide them because you got to get sun to them, right? But how did you place it on the property so as not to be visually obtrusive or anything like that? I know they're hard to, you know, they're solar panels.
Right. Well, there's a little area of brush between the solar panels and the highway. The solar panels are going to be ground mounted on racks, so the top of the solar panels are only going to be like the maximum 2-3 feet above finished grade. So it's going to be like a series of like sawtooths.
Okay.
Rows of solar panels, and they'll slope up, and then the next row behind them will start low and slope up. The total height of the whole thing is probably no greater than 3 feet above.
So you really.
And it is behind a little bit of natural vegetation, and it's going to hide a lot of it.
A lot of it. Okay. Great. That's my only question. And
okay.
With that, I appreciate staff's presentation and the applicant. And I just want to, before I make a final determination, I want to bring up that the condition 18, it's not our condition, it's environmental health condition. So I want Keith to read off how we would state the condition and make sure, Amy, you're good with it. But I think it's the best we can do because it's not our condition. Why don't you read that off, Keith?
Okay, thank you, Brent. We would have it changed to, if allowed by the environmental health regulations, prior to final certificate of occupancy, applicant shall submit proof of water to the environmental health department.
Amy, how's that sound? Can you unmute her? Amy?
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Keith. That language, if allowed by Department of Environmental Health, I think is a great qualification. Thank you.
And maybe on future projects, what we could do is see if we can, we can all work together with environmental health and, you know, get a condition like that in the future. We'll work on that. And anyway, given that, I will approve conditional or coastal development permit 2018-0018 with the conditions as modified by the April 30th, 2020 memo that Julie prepared, and the this condition 18 modification that we all agreed to here just now. So with that, I guess that concludes this item. One thing I want to bring up, you can appeal the decision of the coastal permit administrator on any of these items today within, is it 11 days? 10 days you can appeal it. You have to pay an appeal fee, and it goes on to the Board of Supervisors, and then the Coastal Commission has 10 days.
10 business days.
I always forget 10 days that they can appeal it. So with that, I approve this one with the conditions, and I wish you guys all the best of luck on the project.
Thank you so much.
Great. Have a great day. Thank you. So next up is matters from staff. Do we have any matters from staff? And then next is matters from public. Do we have any written correspondence? Do we need to do a 3-minute pause here? So we're going to do a 3-minute pause here, and I'll put my timer on. If anybody has any public comments they want to send in to Jim at pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org, pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. Send those in now. right. Did we have any matters from the public, Jim?
I didn't receive any.
Nothing, thank you, sir. All right, given that we have no comments,
It looks like Amy wants to say.
oh,
Go ahead, Amy.
yes, Amy?
It's a compliment. It's a compliment. I just want to say as watching the pattern of comments for all four of these projects that were heard today, I just want to say that your staff just did an amazing job playing volleyball on all of those things. Obviously your planning staff but also your admin staff in getting those comments uploaded all the way, 6:30 this morning, all the way up to moments before the hearing. So thank you very much for all of that, and go team.
You know, Amy, I really appreciate it. I meant to say something about this. I'm just so fortunate I get to work with all these people. They are true believers in good government. They want to do a good job. I mean, Julia, Keith, Vandy, everybody was jumping on these last minute. You were, and other applicants on these last minute changes from the Coastal Commission and others. And I really appreciate everybody hanging in there. And I know this is not an easy process. You know my background. I'm used to going categorically exempt in urban environments and mitigating things and doing lots of mitigations. But this is a difficult coastal area. We got to be protectionist, and I know you are, Amy, and on all your projects. And Julia, I just really appreciate it. These are not easy projects. And getting this Zoom meeting going. Thank you, Jim, Caitlin. You're doing a great job running the Zoom ship here. But anyway, I appreciate that.
And we did receive a comment actually just
Oh,
now.
did we? Oh, we did.
Got it.
We
We
just got
a comment.
Okay, we got a comment.
So this is actually from, for one of the cases that was on the agenda. It's just a clarifying thing. So I just want to make sure this is part of the record. So this is from Robert Schlosser, and he just wanted to clarify that they will be replacing the floor structure in addition to the floor subflooring due to the rot. So he just wanted to make sure that was very clear. That they are going to reuse the existing foundation and will improve the foundation in certain spots if the new design results in point loads at places where the existing foundation does not provide adequate structural bearing capacity.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to make sure that was clear for the record, and staff sees no challenge with the action that was taken.
All right. Anything else from the public? If there's nothing else, everybody have a great day. Thank you for the cases that were submitted, and I'll adjourn the meeting at 11:38 a.m. Have a great day, everybody.